Hey everyone, welcome back to Kitchen Connections here at the Brunswick County Cooperative Extension Office. This month we are making a sweet potato casserole from the Med Instead of Meds curriculum. So if you've never heard of Med Instead of Meds before, I encourage you to go to our website and check it out. It's a great Mediterranean style diet program. It's 6 weeks long. Lots of delicious recipes, lots of good tips to eating the med way. And we're starting a new program in January. So we'll go ahead and get started with our sweet potato casserole. This is a lighter take on a Thanksgiving classic. It doesn't include the marshmallows or a bunch of that extra sugar. So it provides a lot of nutrients as well. Our first step is going to be to microwave our sweet potatoes. So this will kind of speed up the cooking process and make them really quick too. This is one of the best parts of the recipe is it's really fast, pretty easy to make and just put in your oven and keep warm and ready to go. So if you don't have fresh sweet potatoes, you can use a large can of sweet potatoes and just rinse and drain the syrup that comes in the can. So I've got my fresh sweet potato here, washed and clean for us, and I'm just gonna pierce it with a fork. So to keep our cooking demo nice and quick today, we have already prepped a few of our ingredients, and I've had a super helper in the kitchen. One of our Extension Master Food volunteers is with us and helped me bake a recipe ahead of time so you'll get to see the final results. So I've just pierced a few times around the sweet potato, and I'm going to wrap it with a damp paper towel and place it in the microwave for about 5 minutes. I would say you can do about 2.5 minutes per pound with your sweet potatoes. So this one I'm going to just place right in here and we'll flip it about halfway through. All right. There we go. Just a second, drop my microphone. This is some of the realities of the live cooking demo sometimes. Okay, I think we're better now. So with our cooked sweet potatoes, we've already microwaved these and let them cool. And I'm going to go ahead and put them into our bowl. So I'm going to scrape out our sweet potato halves here. And we're going to leave the skin off as much as we can. They're should be really easy to kind of scoop out the insides once you have them cooked. So we'll get this here. All right. This one is a little messier of a recipe, but it's a great one to get the family involved in as well. So having them help you cook the sweet potatoes or scrape the insides out can make it more than a one-person job. So we'll continue scraping the insides of our sweet potatoes out here. Now you could mash them further with a food processor or a blender if you wanted to. I'm just going to use a hand masher today. And this is coming out super easily. Now they are very hot to the touch when they first come out, so making sure that you're being cautious of your hands, not burning them. Okay, our last sweet potato here. And like I said, using that hand masher today to just mash these up until it's a smoother consistency. This is kind of preference, if you want it smoother or a little chunkier. Now, once we add some of our other ingredients, it will also help with the smoothness of the dish. Now, I am curious to know, those who are tuning in, if you normally consider sweet potato casserole a dessert or a side dish. We had a little conversation about it, so I'm curious to see what you all think at home. Okay, next I am going to add in some skim milk. You could do any milk of choice. Using skim milk does eliminate some of the extra saturated fat, so that's normally our recommendation on which milk to use. You could also use a non-dairy milk substitute in this, and it would be delicious. I've used oat milk before, and it turned out really nicely. Okay, next we are going to add some applesauce. I've just got a little 4-ounce container of unsweetened applesauce. This would be about 1/4 cup if you had applesauce on hand. And we're just mixing this right in. The applesauce gives it a little sweetness, a little natural sweetness, and also makes the texture a little smoother. And then we're also going to add in a little bit of vanilla extract and some cinnamon and nutmeg. So really incorporating a lot of those holiday flavors we tend to see. Okay, so moving on to our cinnamon, we're going to do a teaspoon of cinnamon. You could do a little more or a little less. I think you could use some pumpkin pie seasoning or some other seasonings as well. Next, we're going to add in our nutmeg. So I'll give us a stir here. Now, the sweet potato casserole does have a really delicious topping we're going to add as well. So next, using our nutmeg, just about 1/4 teaspoon. And our last ingredient will be the vanilla. All right. Got some vanilla in there. Now, another reason we picked this sweet potato casserole and have our demo this month is to promote our holiday challenge through the Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less organization. You can sign up for the free virtual challenge that encourages you to maintain your weight over the holiday season instead of gaining weight. And it goes on now until New Year's Eve and sends you weekly emails and recipes. So I think you all would really enjoy participating in that and getting those weekly emails and seeing some new recipes and tips and ideas. So now that I've got my sweet potato casserole mixed here, I'm just going to add it directly into my, my dish. So we'll scoop this in here. And then just make it nice and flat and even so it cooks evenly across the top. We do have our oven set to 350. Do we have any questions or comments in the chat so far? All right, we'll keep going here. Now you could use a dish that's a little wider, so it'd be a little thinner texture. I sometimes it's hard to judge with the side of our sweet potatoes just how much we're going to get, but I had some pretty large sweet potatoes today. Okay. And then we'll mix up our topping. So this one a little different than our typical topping for a sweet potato casserole, but we are going to start by mixing some oats. So we've got some whole grain oats here, a nice little crunch added to our dish, and some more protein and fiber. We're gonna add some pecans. Now I chop these up. You could buy them pre-chopped. I think you could use walnuts or almonds, or just leave the nuts out completely, and it would be really delicious. And then our only added sugar, we're adding a little bit of brown sugar, just about a tablespoon into our mix. And then finally, I've got a little bit more cinnamon and nutmeg. So I'm going to start mixing this all together here. So you can see in our bowl here, we just got it nice and mixed in consistency. Now we know for next time our little mic here is not the best for this. So I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil too to further mix this together and get it nice and golden brown once we bake it. So I've added some olive oil in there. The recipe calls for canola oil, so you could use either or, and I think you could also substitute some vegetable oil in. Normally the recipe calls for quick cooking oats, but I've used old fashioned, and I think you can get away with either one and still have a really delicious recipe here. So combining this really well, getting this nice kind of brown color. And then we're just gonna top our casserole nice and evenly spread out here. Okay, and it looks like we may have a question so far in the chat.
Yes, so you have a question from Miss Gina that says, did you grease or butter the dish?
Miss Gina, hello, thanks for joining us. If you guys also didn't know, I have a fabulous helper behind the scenes too, Rachel, so she will read off any questions or comments you all have. I did not grease or butter my dish beforehand. I've noticed it doesn't really need to be to have any of the greasing to make sure it doesn't stick. So no need to do that beforehand. Now I do have a already cooked casserole that's going to come out. So we'll do a little trade here with our cooked one. Like I said, only takes about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. And you can see the difference here. How you can tell it's done is it's heated all the way through, and you also see this nice browning that goes on, especially with the oats. So I'm going to slide this one in the oven. And normally we'll let this cool a little more. I'll give it just a second to cool before we kind of show you our final product here. But this casserole serves about 8 or 9 people. You can cut it into 9 different squares. So it's really easy to feed a crowd also. So we'll go ahead and give ourselves a little scoop here so you get to see a preview. So you can see it's got that really beautiful kind of orange color from the sweet potatoes. I can see the cinnamon mixed in, and I've got my topping here, nice and crumbly. So this makes a really delicious addition to your holiday meals. Okay, and we've got one more question, it looks like.
We have 2 comments.
Okay.
Miss Gina said it's my side dish.
A side dish. Good to know.
And Mark Lovin says, looks delicious and with NC sweet potatoes.
That's right. So North Carolina is one of the highest producers of sweet potatoes. So this is a really easy one to purchase locally at a farmer's market or produce stand near you, and include some fresh farm North Carolina foods to your Thanksgiving as well. So thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you'll try out the recipe. If you receive the Star News, it's also in your Saturday edition. So you'll have a printed out copy and another picture of the recipe there. And we hope to see you next time on our Kitchen Connections.